to this webinar on reusable implementations. This is a talk that I did on the technical conference. Oh, wait 1 second. Start.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are.
Okay, welcome to this webinar called Reusable Implementations. This is a repeat of a session we did on the tech conference this year in Vejle. So if you attended the tech conference, you might have seen some of the things that I'm going to show you in this presentation. I'm Nikolai, and I'm working with Dynamicweb every day. The agenda for this webinar is first a brief intro, and then we're going to take a look at two concepts that we've been working with. The first one is called Rep, which is a configurable website, and then we have something called Themes, which is also using some of the ideas of configurable websites, but can be used in other implementations than the one that we deliver. Just a few introduction on the two concepts, and then we're going to take a look at the implementation, see some code and how it works and what it can do and what it cannot do, and then we take a brief talk on why this is important in our everyday work. And that's the agenda for today. We don't have a discussion since this is a webinar, but you can ask questions in the question pane during this session, and I'll try to answer as best as I can. First, I'm going to introduce you to the concept called Rep, for those of you who hasn't seen it yet. This is what we call a configurable website, and it's a plug-and-play implementation of a dynamic web that contains a way to create content, regular content and pages and news, carousels, galleries. It also is a full-blown e-commerce with products and cart checkout flows and mini carts and all the login and customer center and all those stuff. And all of these things has been implemented using a very simple implementation method, and is something that we can use over and over again. What it can do, this Rep concept, is you can configure how it should be designed and how it should look like, and instead of implementing a new design for every solution, you can take this website down and use it as a starting point, and then you can configure the website to look different to whatever need you have. And of course, there's limitation to how designed you can make this website look, but as I'm going to show you, you can make some very different websites using this configuration engine. The benefit, of course, is that you can have a website up and running in a matter of a few minutes or maybe 1 hour. You can configure and add things like logo, colors, and fonts and so on to a website, and you can start working on the content itself and make the changes that are required for the solution you're working on. Just seeing if we have any questions. No, not yet. The features in Rep is, of course, it's responsive and partially adaptive as well. It's based on Bootstrap, and we've made some implementation that lies on top of our paragraphs and on top of some of the things that Bootstrap can do, and I'm going to show you. Then it has features for creating regular content that would be regular paragraphs. I'm going to introduce you to a concept called multi-purpose paragraphs, and it has the most normal features like galleries and images and products or services that we want to display on our website as an example implementation on how that can be done. And of course, you need to extend these things to serve the needs that you have on your website. And as I said, it has a full e-commerce. It has customer center implementation. It also has newsletter templates that are responsive as well, and uses some of the configuration options that we have in here. And then we have some more commercial kind of content type like carousels and banners and stuff like that you can put in your content and have a look at how it looks. But all of this is coming in one package or one installation where you can configure how the website should look. But basically, you use the design and work with it as it should be. The implementation of this is Bootstrap 3.0 or 3 something, the newest one there. All the templates is based on Razor. The templates are very simple. I'm going to show you. Basically, there's only a couple of layout templates, one for the website and one for the newsletter. And we also just have one paragraph template, and all the configuration on how these templates should behave has been moved into item configuration and can be managed from within the administration. So you should be able to do more without coding, but configuring the administration instead. And it's relatively easy to extend or change, especially when you have spent 1 hour getting into how this is put together. You can change some of the behavior or add new content types into the existing behavior relatively simple. After that, I'm going to show you just a brief introduction to something called themes. Themes is kind of the same things as Rep, but it's bootstrapped down, meaning that we don't have as many features, and it's not meant to be a finished website, and it's not meant to be a configurable design engine. But what you can do is you have some of the concepts that we have on Rep, how you can configure things like fonts and colors, and you have some of the templates, and we have a layout engine that works on Bootstrap, and we have a set of templates that are built in Razor. And we've made these modular content implementations so you can reuse them in your own implementation. And what you want to do with this one is you take the layout, and that's the one controlling how the website should look, and make your own implementation based on the design that you have. And you might want to implement some of the things that you can do with configuring colors and fonts and so on. In this way, you can make your own version of our website, but based on your company's best practices and so on. And it also gives a model for controlling content in a bootstrap environment with the 12 columns. So some of the things that you would normally code yourself will be put into, or you can take from this framework. So this is basically just a way of implementing that can be built upon. So, but let's have a look at how all of this works and switch to a browser to see what it can do. So first of all, I have a rep solution here. You can always see it at this URL, rep.dynamicweb/cms.com, and that's the basic introduction of this one. So what I have here is a sample website with a lot of content, and we have things like a product catalog and a card and press section and news and galleries and demonstration of different content and so on. So this is where you would start with some of the things and see how it works. We also have things like customer center, newsletters, and so on. And this is a website, and it looks like this. So very standard website. We have the 12 columns. On the front page on this page, I have some content, and let's first start having a look at this one. As you can see, first I have a top paragraph that is the total width of the website, and then I have 4 other paragraphs that has a different size. I'm going to show you how that works later on. This is the content area, and surrounding the content area, you basically have the design of the website with the logo and the colors and the background, and how should the footer look like, and what kind of information should it contain. We also have a navigation up here. All of that is something that we can configure, and I'm going to show you how that works. On my website, I can go edit the properties of the website. And what I do have is my regular settings like the metadata and some domain details. And what I've done here is I've created where do we have it? An item type that's called website settings that extends what we can do on a website. So as you can see, I have a lot of settings down here. And this is where I can configure how this website should look in the front end. So I can configure all the things that I have in the front end using some things in here instead of going into the code. So I have some colors that controls. You can see we have the navigation and the primary and the secondary color, which is that color and the other color. And those colors are also used for buttons and links and so on. So if I change these color spaces to maybe something I want a green website, I can do like this. And those will be used everywhere. I have buttons and so on in the website like this, and add to cart buttons and all of those things. I can also work with the logo, change it, because it's basically just a file. So if I have another logo I want to attach to the front page out here, I'll just add that. And then I can do some different stuff also. Should it be a boxed navigation mode, or should I use a fluid mode? So this one is boxed, as you can see. If I go to fluid, it will go to the bottom. Let's try changing this as well, and see how it works in the front end. Now I have a green one. I have this one changed. I go to the edge of the website. My buttons down here also got green because of the green color. And so this is step number 1 for doing some things. I'm going to go back to box mode. Where should the navigation be placed, left or right? Right now it's left based, meaning the navigation is coming in on the left. I can configure things like the layout. How should it look like? Do I have a solid navigation bar now? I could also go and use the cover version, meaning I would have a background image that goes behind the navigation, or I can use a mobile only, which is one of the trending navigation options that we have. And then I also have some more advanced navigation layout. How should the navigation bar look like? Instead of being a solid bar, I could make it buttons with a border, or I can make it a thinner bar or underlined bar, and so on. I have different configurations here. And then I can say the weight. Should it be light or heavy, meaning how much space should we put around it, or how thick should the border be? The color of the font. How should the breadcrumb look like? As you see, this page does not have a breadcrumb. If I go into the next one, if I find a page with a breadcrumb, I have one here. And it's designed to be gray and in line with the white as a background. Just waiting. And yeah, breadcrumb has been disabled on some of the pages. I can control the look at that and where it should be aligned, and control some navigation background modes. How should the left navigation look like? How should buttons look like? I want a more, I think this is more trendy than this one, so that's the one I'm going to change. The background image I can change from in here, or I can add my own custom background and use an existing image that I have, or I can set a background color. So, and I have a lot of things that I can change using this concept. Also things like the fonts that we're using. So this is the heading font, and I can of course change the sizes and of the fonts and so on. And I even have some advanced settings down here, so I can really control things like casing and letter spacing and line height if I want to go into some details. And the same goes for the subheadings, the body font and colors, and how should the footer look like. Basically controlling all the information that I have down here. And I also have a possibility of adding some social media icons if I want to show them in the footer. I can add external scripts like Google Analytics or whatever I want to do in here. And the last thing I can configure is the e-commerce. Should it be enabled? If it is enabled, I get things like the mini cart up here. I have login, so I can have access to the customer center and stuff like that. And I can see something about what should I render on the products, and how does the add to cart button looks like, and the price stickers and so on. Save this and have a look at how it will look now. So now it's a different website look that I had before. This is not as pretty, but I'm not good with colors. But basically, this is the concept of designing the website itself. So all of this is done by running something called full width CSHTML, which is the layout template which is used on all the pages down here. On the front page, I do not have a left navigation for example, in the products page, I would have a left navigation, and some of the others up here, I have a left navigation. All of that is controlled instead of using two different layout templates. Also, the page properties has some settings down here where I can control, should we have a breadcrumb or not, and should I have a left navigation or not in here. So I can control that using some settings in here, and also do I want a Facebook like button. Stuff like that can be changed in here. So basically, one very simple layout template, but how it should behave is configured by using an item instead of using a different layout template. So it's easier for the editor to make the decisions on how the page should behave. So this is a good practice that could be used whether you're using Wrap or not. You can also reuse this concept. The way this is made is by an item type, first of all. So I have something called website setting, which is an item type that extends all the configuration that we can do on the design. So I have the colors and the logo and all these things that I can configure. It's basically just fields on this item type. And I have the page settings that we saw before. It only has these 3 settings. And what we do in our template, this is the full width template I showed you, and this is the master template that is used by this one. As you can see, it's relatively big, and this is where all the magic happens. First of all, I include something called wrap methods, where I have some things that are used as helpers in here. And what I have here is I have something called item area, and then I have all my configuration options from my website settings in here. So if I go in here, all the things that I add into these settings is available in my master HTML. And what I do is I use this information down here to say what should be happening with the layout in this one. So here I have the font settings, which does some things on fonts and colors and all the general settings. And what this does is it generates an auto CSS file that is saved to disk, and that CSS file is being presented into the website. So what I have here is this is the file. You can see it's just created at 1:45. This is the last time I changed the one. Let's have a look at the file. So it basically creates a very simple and minified CSS file with all the settings that we can control. What font are we using? What are the color of that font, and body color and font, and all the things that are affecting the navigation and breadcrumbs and so on. So all the changes I do is compiled into this CSS file and written to disk. And when that's done, we simply include it down here, and that's basically it. Apart from that, it's just a very normal Bootstrap implementation. We have rows and columns and all of that, and we have an implementation of how this should behave. We have the navigations and so on. You can see this is where we'll render the image, one of the settings on the website properties as well. So the rest of the things going on down here is basically just a regular implementation with a bit of logic, where some of the decisions made on should I have a header, that is a setting that I get from in here, instead of being something that I do by changing the layout template. So a very simple approach to how you can basically configure your website instead of doing that. And of course, what you can do with this is you can easily make a lot of different designs. You can see down here I have 4 different examples using different combinations of configuration. You have different headings, and this is the navigation using a full page image and a navigation that doesn't have a background color. So here I have a totally different design used. It's still inside this solution. It's just using another configuration of the other things. I have a fashion shop example, which is again looking a bit different than the other one that we saw before. I'm using the mobile navigation on this one, so again it looks a whole lot different than the one I'm looking at right here. If we go and switch and take a look at the content instead of this one, so taking a look at this one, I have a 12-column piece of content here, and I have 4 pieces of content which is taking up 3 columns each in a Bootstrap design. And if we have a look at how that works, instead of inserting a regular paragraph here, I'm inserting something called a multi-purpose paragraph, or just a paragraph basically. And what it does is the same thing as the paragraph. You can see the item type is called paragraph. I'm going to show it in a minute. and it has a title and a subtitle. It has an image. It has a text box. That's the text that we have around here. And then it has something down here is basically what does the magic, the layout settings. How should content be ordered compared to each other? Image first and then heading, or heading and then image, or I have image to the side and text to the other side. And how wide should it be on the different screens? So I can say on mobile I want it to be, or on desktop I want it to be full width, and the same goes for a device width on small devices. I could also say on a desktop I want it to be half width, but on a mobile I want it to be full width, or I can also choose not to show it at all on the mobile as well. And I can also control how the image should be shown, with a square without a border and with a border, and different layout styles or round ones. We saw it, the round ones, in one of the other themes that we did before. So this is basically a content element. So instead of choosing different paragraph templates all the time, I basically just have one paragraph template, and it reacts on these settings and decides what it should do. And what it does is basically just add classes and a bit of logic into the paragraph template I'm going to show you in a minute. So basically all paragraph uses the paragraph template, which is automatically added because of the configuration of this site. So if we have a look at how this is done in item types, I have an item type here called layout, and the layout item type is the one that controls what should be the width on big devices and small devices. And then I have inherited item types like the paragraph we just saw, but I also have a carousel or a banner, which is inheriting these settings and basically are able to be rendered in the same ways. So if I have a look at this one, let's see if I have a piece of content somewhere, if I can find it. I'll just insert a piece of content in here. So if I insert an item of type paragraph, I will get all the layout settings. If I insert one of type carousel, I can see that the item type has some carousel information. How should it look like, and what kind of images should I show, and the colors and so on. That's fine, but what I have down here is what is the width on big devices and small devices. So basically the engine or the piece of code that renders all the content I have for this website is inheriting the same piece of information that I have down here. So if we go back and take a look at how that works, is I have a paragraph section in here, and this is where I have my paragraph eraser template. And what it does, it includes the layout HTML, and this is the one that has all the logic regarding how we should, how many columns we should cover, and should it be shown on mobile devices and so on. So, and the rest I have down here is just how should it be rendered, and I rendered the heading, the subheading, the text, the module, and a button and image in what order has been configured. So let's have a look at that layout implementation, which is basically the same one that is included in carousel and banner and some of the others down here. So if I have a look at that one, so this is where the logic is placed. So this one finds out how to do fluids. It also keeps track of how many rows or how many columns have I made in the rows I'm drawing right now. So what I do is inside the paragraph template I call the column class, which decides should I have 3 columns or 6 columns or 12 columns based on the configuration, and should I have a new row or not, which is also a decision made by this layout engine, which then again keeps track of how many columns have been written in the current context right now. So very simple, but also a very powerful implementation, and where the configuration is moved in here instead of selecting a template all the time, which is a bit difficult for the editors. So relatively simple to work with the content area in here. And then we have also on this one, of course, a full e-commerce with the product lists and product details, supporting variants and bill of materials and stuff like that. If I add it to cart, I get a mini cart up here, and I also have a full checkout or one-step checkout flow implemented at the in the page here. It's a bit slow. So I have a one-step checkout with the most common things that we need to do, an implementation of this, how we want all this to work, and I can check out on all of this using this one. And this can of course be changed by altering the template or adding more steps and so on. Now you can see most of this is in Danish, and what it also contains is I can go and say I want to translate this website, so all of the rep here is ready for being used in other languages. I just need to translate all the things like add to button, add to cart, and product and count and edit cart, and all these texts that are used throughout the website can be changed using the translation interface. So that's basically a rep implementation and what it does. And there's two ways that you can get your hold of rep. When you order a software as a service solution in Dynamicweb, you can order it saying that you want a copy of the rep demo, or you can also go into developer area on and in the download section we have rep for Dynamicweb down here, where you can see all the things that we have, an explanation what it is, and you have the files that you need to use for installing it yourself, and it's explained inside the templates. Oh, sorry, in this document. And you also can ask questions on the rep on the forum in here. We have a rep solution set thread in here, and this one also contains release cycles, so you can see what has been changed in the various versions and when is the new one containing compared to the old one. So you can always follow progress in here. So that's how we release the rep solution. So that's basically it. Switching on to themes, which is more or less similar, but more scaled down version of rep. I'm just seeing if we have any questions. We do. I just need to see. That's Pierre. Yeah, man, he's got a lot of questions down here. It would be nice if different parts of the templates can be used on other sites as modules and so on. And rep is not meant for being used on other websites. Then you should use the themes instead, because this is more modular. You can take the templates itself. Pierre, you probably need to take this many questions and put it into the forums instead. Yeah, too many questions for this webinar. I'm going to switch over and talk about the themes instead. Just a brief introduction. As I said, it's kind of the same concept as we have on rep, but it's more scaled down. So we have a much more simple version of what you can do on website properties, and basically it's the same trick, but it doesn't affect as many things. It's just the simple things like headings and fonts and background colors and images and so on that we are adding into to the theme rendering thing. So it's much more simple to work with. It's just one include file and one item type, and then you basically implement your own design based on this one. It also uses the concept with the layout engine that we saw here. So it's using the same concept with the device width and on small width. So you have a bit of piece of code you can use with the paragraph template and the item type that we use in conjunction with this. So you get those two mechanisms, and you can use one of them or you can use both of them in your implementation and reuse some of the implementation that we do. Apart from that, it also contains things like product templates and cart templates and all of the things that you need to do an e-commerce solution, but they are not depending on the templates or being part of the rep as the templates in rep does. They need some specific CSS classes and so on. These are more classless, so if you need something that is not using the entire rep, you should take the templates from the theme instead. So that's the main difference between the two of these things, of these two technologies. So getting back to if I know how to do this, 1 second. Well, PowerPoint is broken, we take it like this. So, question, why is this important? It is sometimes important because you need to make websites that doesn't take forever to make. Sometimes you can use it for a proof of concept, so you can get a demonstration up and running for one of your customers using their fonts and colors and logos and so on, so they can better relate to it. It's also a good platform for building websites that is where branding is not very important to the customer. So if they just need a good website that has all of these things implemented and it needs to look nice and follow their colors and fonts and so on using their logos, this is a good starting point. This is not a big fancy solution set that solves all the problems in a website, but it's a high starting point for websites. And you can take rep as it is and configure it for that specific website, which is definitely possible. And it's also a possibility to take elements out of rep, or you can build on from rep and change the design to be specific to the customer that you are using or implementing for right now. And of course, this is to bring down implementation time. So instead of using days on implementing a website, we can do it in an hour or two instead, and get on with working with the more important things like the content itself and the marketing of the website. So let's see if we have other questions than 1 trillion questions from Per. Per, if you paste these questions into a forum thread instead, I'll take a look at it and give it an answer inside the forums instead. So put it in here. And I'll be more than happy to give you an answer. One of the things that is also important is that you put in your ideas in here, because what we do is we take ideas and feature requests and put it into the product backlog. And sometimes we release new versions of rep, and of course we take those feedback into consideration, put it into the future releases of it all. So make sure that you ask questions in here or give us your ideas using the forums. Thank you, and I think that's it for today. I have a question from Morten Lund. Will there be an auto update option for the rep theme template sometimes in the future to get the latest updates? Maybe, maybe not. Usually the templates and the item types are compatible with the previous version. So basically what you need to do is just copy from the download section, and that's why it is like this. We have items, which is needed to be copied, and then the DV simple folder, which also needs to be copied, which is the actual design folder itself. You can easily copy those two templates into an existing solution. Of course, you need to test that everything works as it should. Because there will be changes to the templates and there will be changes to the items. And of course, if you did make some changes to the item down here, some of the templates in the DV simple, they will be overwritten with our templates. So there's no auto update for this. You would need to update using these two zip files yourself, and you're up and running. All right, any other questions? No, then I'll say thank you for attending this webinar, and check back next week with the next webinar. I can't remember the theme, but I'm pretty sure it's relevant, so make sure to sign up and engage. Thank you for attending, and bye for now.